Happy Monday, everybody. Welcome to another edition of Drive Time. It's crazy to think that we're already at the end of April. Today is April 28th, and the year just flies by. I tell you, it doesn't stop for anyone, does it? Time never stops for anyone. But anyway, welcome to another edition of Drive Time. We are here on this beautiful Monday, and man, do we have a lot to get to. Might be having a couple special guests join me as we move on through the show. But of course, I always start with what am I wearing now. I know I always say I try not to get too political on here, but every now and then I do, and I apologize if it upsets anyone. I'm going with my national park and national forest shirt because a certain administration is going through and talking about getting rid of some of our lovely national parks and stuff like that. So I love the national parks, and I've been to my wife and I now have been to a third of them. We're trying to get to them all. Hopefully while they're still around. So anyway, that's what I'm wearing today, just because I want to support our national parks and our lovely national forests. And if you do like getting out in nature, check them out. They're all amazing. There's probably one close by you than what you think, and they are a great time. But all right, enough of that, right? So let's get into the let's start getting into some of the stuff to show. And of course, we always start with our look in the rearview mirror. Now, too, I'm a diehard Kent State grad. I don't get to talk a lot about good things with Kent State sports, but I do get to talk about one thing. And I know it's weird, but just suffer through this for a few couple moments if you don't mind. The MAC started the women's where they started to crown champions for the women's golf in 1999, and over the last weekend, the Kent State women's golf team recorded their 26th straight MAC championship. Yes, that's correct. 26 in a row that the Kent State ladies have won in the MAC championship. It is a record, of course. No, I think UCLA is the next closest with 13 straight conference basketball titles. But we're talking 26 years in a row that they have won the women's title. This year, I think they won it by 20 strokes. They just blew the field out. So I don't know what that says for the rest of the MAC and women's golf, but it's still something to be able to year in and year out win a tournament, especially when you're just based off of one weekend. They change the golf courses, and you never know what weather's going to do, and you never know when a team is going to have a good or bad day. But 26 in a row is something to me. So I just had to give a shout out to my Kent State ladies golf because, like I said, most of the time with Kent State sports, it's not pretty, it's not good. This is one of the rare things that I get to actually talk about and have some fun with. So there you go. So thank you for dealing with that. Now let's start with the People's Draft we did last week. And again, thanks to everyone that joined us. Went over really, really well. I am so happy with how good it went. We didn't have any real pitfalls or anything like that. So I'm working with just one computer today. I don't have my other one. So hopefully this is going to work where I'm going to be able to bring some stuff up. I want to kind of do this a fun little way here where I can bring up here, hopefully this will work, and bring up our mock draft as well, and then be able to show it and share it with everybody, but we'll see if it works or not. So I'm going to try to present, and we'll do share screen. And I don't know why I'm talking like this while I do it, but anyway, overall we did pretty good here. So let's see here if it's gonna. There we go. I think that's the one I want. There we go. Yeah, that should be it. Share this one. And I gotta have it let me. There we go. Okay, perfect. So it should here pop in here, but I want to kind of go over because I think we get to toot our own horn a little bit. For the most part, we had a pretty successful mock draft. In the middle got kind of wonky with everything. Of course, our first pick was Cam Ward, and Michael McGinnis made that pick for the Tennessee Titans, and he got that pick correct. So hey, that's 1-for-1. We always like to, you got to start off well with a 1-for-1. Now this one, originally the pick was Cleveland, and Pat made the pick of Travis Hunter. Now that pick was traded, to Jacksonville, but the pick still was Travis Hunter. So we start off a nice solid 2-for-2 here. That where we get going, and I think that's to me that still counts. That counts as a good pick. Then the third pick was the New York Giants. That was made by Dylan. He picked Abdul Carter, and that was of course the pick. So here we are, 3 picks in. We're rocking and rolling. Basically, we've gotten the same 3 picks right. The fourth pick was where we have our first little slip up. Jeff came in and made the pick for Tyler Warren for tight end for Penn State, and the pick was Will Campbell, the offensive tackle for LSU, which makes sense. I mean, you need an offensive lineman there too. I didn't have an issue with that pick. I think you could have gone either way, where you're either making the pick for giving him more targets, or you're protecting your new quarterback better. So I didn't have any issues with that pick as well at all either. Then we had the Jacksonville pick, which was Mason Graham. Now this was actually Cleveland, but still, again, the same thing like 2. That pick is the same pick, and the that's who was picked there. So to me, that I think it counts. I think we get to count both of those for how we did. I then, of course, made the pick for the Vegas Raiders, and I said it was going to be Ashton Gianti, and that was the pick. So through the first six picks, we actually, I think, got five of them right because you got five players that went the right ones, and the one that wasn't. Now, in fairness, we fall off a little bit here. Well, no, we actually get the seventh pick right too. I forgot we did get Nancy made this pick for the New York Jets, and it was Armand Membu from the tackle from Missouri, and that was also the pick. So, through the first seven picks, we're spot on. We're having a good day. Now that's where it gets a little weird. Carolina Panthers end up taking a wide receiver at 8, so we were missing on that one a little bit. And then as I scroll through here slowly but surely, so we can go through here some of these other ones, this is where I think a lot of us thought that Shador was going to go, and he didn't. They took an offensive tackle. I'm going to save the Shador part for a little bit later on here. Then the Chicago Bears come up, and now this is where it gets kind of interesting, right? Because in our draft, Will Campbell is still on the board, or wasn't on the board, because he was taken earlier. So here, this is where you gets kind of interesting. So Will Campbell wasn't available to be taken anyway. They take a tight end, which is kind of interesting. They've already got a really good tight end there too, but I can't complain about that pick either. So that pick to me is okay, but not correct. Then you get San Francisco, which Midnight Rider made this pick at the cornerback from Michigan, but then they actually took Michael Williams from Georgia at the edge. So as you move on these, of course, as more players are taken that aren't available when we did ours, you just never know how it goes. So like here, McMillan's not even available when Marcus made the pick for Dallas. So Dallas actually takes Tyler Booker, offensive guard for Alabama. So who knows, if he would know that McMillan wasn't going to be available, would he have made that pick? Maybe, maybe not, but you never know. But either way, again, it's kind of makes it where it's hard. Nancy for Miami had Barron for the Texas going, but the pick was actually Kenneth Grant, defensive tackle from Michigan there. So a miss there. And then here's one where kind of almost got it right. Jeff made the pick for Indy. Now, at this point in time, of course, he had Tyler Warren already off the board. So he went with Colston Loveland, which was the pick anyway. So, but this was where they then took Tyler Warren because he was out there. So, and Loveland was actually off the board. So, either way, but he did say they're going to pick a tight end, and they did pick a tight end. So it kind of counts. It's mostly correct. There was a tight end, so I think that's still a job well done there. Then for Atlanta, Midnight Rider made this pick where this is where again he had Williams going, but Williams is already off the board, and they took Jalen Walker. So he had the right school. It was still Georgia, so to me that gets a partial credit. Like if we were grading this, I'd give that student some partial credit for saying Georgia. That's the right school anyway. I made the pick for Arizona. I thought they'd go offensive line. They did need defensive line too, which I mentioned on the show. And the pick was defensive line. I can't really argue that. I just thought they would maybe, and I said that my pick for them was going to be biased because I wanted them to give Murray more protection, but I can't argue with that pick either. That they made for Cincinnati. The pick here was Stewart from Texas A&M. We had the linebacker from Alabama going there, so right on defense, but just the wrong stuff. And here, Seattle, the pick was for the cornerback, but they actually took an offensive guard from North Dakota State, and that was the one that, if you remember, the gentleman Jack was talking a lot about, Gray Zabel. So that was kind of, I think, right around the spot where he thought that he might go. So kudos to him on that one. And then Tampa Bay kind of surprised us with going with a wide receiver. I really didn't see them going wide receiver, but they did, and it was one that we had going earlier. And of course, this one really surprised me. I thought for sure Denver was taking the running back, Hampton, and instead they got Barron from the cornerback. Which again, in ours, we had him going way higher. So I can't guarantee that I would have done that pick. I probably still would have stuck with them taking Hampton because I just think that was the right fit. But it is what it is, right? Now this one we actually got right as well. The Derek Harmon was taken by Jeff Naylor, Naylor as we like to call him, and he got this pick right. Even at pick 21, we're still getting picks right. So with guys coming in and off the board, we get this one 100% correct, which is always fun to see. Then when we got the Chargers, and this is where Hampton does go instead of a wide receiver. And again, the Obuka's already off the board in ours, so or in the real draft. So who knows what would have been picked or not picked if that follows through. But either way, it's still unfortunately missed. But then this one we do get right. Dustin made the pick for Green Bay. He picked Matthew Golden for Green Bay, and that's sure enough who Green Bay took. So I thought that was a job well done here. We missed on Minnesota, but again, this is another case too where you just got guys going off the board earlier or later than what you thought. Houston thought was going to go offensive guard, but of course they traded this pick, and Jackson Dart was taken by the Giants. So to me, this one doesn't even count because it's a traded pick. The guys are trading up to get a quarterback. We weren't doing trades in ours, so I didn't even count this one in our stats because it's not fair really to count it. Now this one's another interesting one. We had this one originally with the Rams, which Jesse made the pick of James Pierce Jr., the defensive edge from Tennessee, and that was the pick. Again, this is another one where Atlanta traded up to the spot, but picks the player that we had said would go there. So in my view, I think that counts as well. Then Baltimore, Mike Green, and this is kind of a weird one too, because we had Starks, which was the pick, because he was still on the board, but of course with Archie wasn't. And if I remember correctly, I think Baltimore in round 2 ends up still getting Mike Green. So it kind of counts, not really, but they did end up getting the player that he said that they were going to get. So I think it could count a little bit anyway. Then you have DJ Sanders going at, went too far there. So DJ Sanders is who we had. Instead, they took they did, and it was defense, which we thought that's where they would go, but they took Williams, the defensive tackle from Ohio State. Then you had the Commanders. Again, same thing here. We had an offensive tackle, just they took a different one than what the gentleman Jack said. But on the right page. And then Buffalo, same thing. They went defense, which I think everyone knew they were going to go. But again, this is where Grant we had, was actually already off the board, so there's no way for that pick to be right. They took a cornerback, later on. That's okay too. This one, Kansas City, this is where they traded. Kansas City and Philly traded right at the end. Campbell was a great pick by Philly here, and that's what we picked for Philly was a defenseman. But again, kind of not right, but at the same time right. And then same thing here for Kansas City. They then turned around. They did get an offensive lineman, which is what we all knew that they were going to need and get. So, but all in all, we didn't do too terribly bad when you really look at it. We did have 16 swings and misses. We had 6 where everything was spot on correct. We had 4 with the right position but different player. We had 3 where the player was picked in the correct spot but by a different team. So in my view, we really kind of had 9 correct. We had 1 at the right school, wrong player position, and 2 didn't count because of trades. So overall, I don't think that we did terrible. You look at some of these other ones, top 7 picks, we even got, I think that's actually should be 4 out of the first 7 we were 100% correct on, and the other 2 we were off just because of trades. So I think all in all, we didn't do too shabby, really, considering for our first time doing this. So there's a look back kind of at the people's draft, and I think overall we did pretty damn good if I do say so myself. So everyone, give yourself a pat on the back that participated in that draft, because you deserve it. We all did good. So of course, the story of the draft, unfortunately, there was lots of good stories, of course, but unfortunately, the story of this draft turned into Shadur Sanders getting picked 5th. And I'll be honest, when during this whole draft pre-time, I wasn't really sold on Sanders' ability. Some of what they did does rub me the wrong way, but at the same time, there wasn't a doubt in my mind that the kid played football for sure. So I'm a little, it's a little interesting to see him fall to 5. I don't really think that there's any real reason to say that he fell to 5. Well, hold on, I'm going to bring her in case she might want to add something to this here too. So look who's here with us. It's Showtime Sarah. Woohoo! What's up, Sarah?
Hello.
How you doing?
Hi. Good.
Good.
How are you?
I'm doing great. So, bringing you on. Yeah, I know you're going to be on for the hockey stuff mostly here later on, but I'm talking Shador Sanders falling to the 5th round and how it grinds my gears. And and like I was saying, I get it, because I think this is mostly because people just don't want to deal with Dion. And even from the first reports that came out already after he got picked, and Dion made comments on it about that he's going to be in the room with Cleveland to have this discussion because he doesn't fall second to anybody, which still kind of rubs me the wrong way. But at the same time, I heard this on sports radio on Sunday, and somebody said it, and it changed my view. And I think that's always important on all these things, that no matter where you originally start off with in your viewpoint, that if you hear something and somebody makes a strong argument, that you need to take that in consideration. And I did. And what they said to me, which is something that, with my daughter being on the show here right now, is what father doesn't want to see make sure that their son is in a better position than they were in? And what father doesn't want to see that their daughters have or sons have the tools to be in a better position? And that's really all that Dion is trying to do. Um, Dion didn't come from money, but he made a lot of money. So he put his kids in a better position with the money that he had. I've got no beef with that. The more I think about it, it's like, yeah, hell yeah. Like if I was in Dion's shoes, I'd want my kids to be put in a better position. If there's anything I could do with the money to put them in that better position, then what is wrong with that? And then of course there's also the other fact of this is that Archie Manning did this with Eli 20 years ago, and nobody gave him grief when he basically maneuvered Eli Manning to the New York Giants. So why should we care that that's what Dion is trying to do to make sure that his kid goes to the best place for him to succeed? And the more I thought about it, I'm like, damn, that's right. Like, I think that who cares that that's what he wants? So he's got an involved father. Good for him that he's got an involved father. That's a good thing. It shouldn't be mocked or looked at poorly. So the fact that he falls to the fifth round is just, do I think he's a first round talent? No. Do I think he should have been picked in the second or third round? Absolutely. Was he picked in the fifth round for things completely nothing to do with football? 100%. I don't think there's a doubt in my mind that this has a little bit of Colin Kaepernick written all over it, and kind of similar. And then for him to go to Cleveland, where they already took a quarterback, it's just going to be a nightmare all summer. And of course, it's going to happen here in Cleveland. So, I'll have my popcorn ready to watch it. But it's kind of sad for Sanders. And then you throw in the fact that he gets a prank call from the son of the defensive coordinator for Atlanta, who calls him and says, "Oh, sorry, we're not drafting. You'll have to sit there and wait." It's just not a good look at all for the NFL. Sarah, you got anything on Shador Sanders or your thoughts on it?
Um, from what I know, I think a part of it was also like I guess I've heard like his interviews are just not weren't that great. I think obviously a lot of team obviously maybe like with the Dion thing, I think also just like a lot of like the teams weren't really wondering how to like train his ego a little bit. I mean, like it's good that he has a good ego because I mean, like all players should have one. It would be bad if you were in your head and you're playing a big time game or whatever. But I am surprised that he did fall that far down. I will say I don't think he is going to grow in Cleveland. I don't think Cleveland is going to help him fix this. And Cleveland already has their history of bad quarterbacks. So I don't know how it's going to go. I don't think it's going to be I could see him like maybe trying to like get out of Cleveland eventually. Obviously it's way too early to tell, but I just don't think it's going to be a good fit for him. It kind of doesn't shock me that Cleveland took him, and I kind of thought it was ironic because but
Right.
maybe they like having difficult cases, but I don't know. We'll see. We'll have to see. I mean, he's definitely got a lot to prove people wrong on. So if that motivates him, then go for it.
Cleveland hasn't done well with having strong personalities in their locker room. See Baker Mayfield,
Exactly. Like
see a couple of these other guys that just hasn't uh, gone well for them long term. So I don't know how that's going to work. I'm
I don't
trying
think
to
it's gonna
get
work at
here.
all. It's gonna be
No,
bad.
it's not. And then the fact that they took another young quarterback. So what are you telling that young quarterback that you just took when you've
Did they
already
take a
taken another
quarterback
guy with
after
them?
Sanders or before Sanders?
Before Sanders, they took one.
Oh,
They took the kid from Oregon before that. So
oh right.
um, I don't know. But hold on, I'm trying to get Paul to join us, and I'm sending him the link here again. Just sent it to you, but I'm going to read his comments because he did put some comments in here too, and I think he's also got a point here, which I know, and I think it's some of the stuff here that you mentioned too. So what he says here is, while I can get why he felt New Orleans showed their rear by taking Tyler Slow, who will never be a starter in the league, and that's the quarterback from Louisville. I 100% agree with that. That pick made no sense to me, even over some of the other quarterbacks that were on the board. And then he also puts in Shador is one of the worst quarterback rooms in the league. Doesn't matter where you're drafted, show up and take the job if you're the best option. Yeah, I agree with some of that too. But I can see, I just don't know. Cleveland's now got 5 quarterbacks in that room. Um, now, granted, Deshaun Watson is never going to see playtime at all, so I don't know how that's going to work for him. But yeah, I don't know where this goes for them, but I do think that Shador there's not a doubt in my mind that what happened there had more to do with just football, unfortunately. So, anything else on it?
No, I think. Did you rate any draft? Who do you think drafted?
No, I didn't do. I left that. I'm leaving that for Midnight Rider. He's the draft guru that does that stuff well. I was very happy with my Raiders pick of I think my personal team. I thought they did okay, but these everyone rates their A's, B's, and C's. You just never know
Right.
until the time when it's all over with. So I didn't rate them. I was happy with my Raiders, but I leave that to Midnight Rider and the Gentleman Jack. They are the draft gurus, and that's their area of expertise. So I'll leave that for them. My area of expertise is, of course, the national anthem. So let me see here. This will pull up here. Hopefully, it will pull up. But we've had a lot to update, and I teased this before. Possibly, maybe the worst anthem I have heard. Definitely so far since we started rating them. Let's see here. This will pop up here or not. So I'm going to try to swing this over this way so I can see this. I can get rid of this now because we're done with that. And then that way will allow me to see this here and bring that over this way. So let's see here. Hopefully it's showing. Let's see here if it's showing or not. It says it should be showing here at some point in time. So there it goes. So it came up here. So I'm trying to work here with this screen here so I can see what you guys can see here. And Paul Duvall's coming on. So I'm going to add him to stage here real quick. Paul, how you doing, sir? I'm wondering maybe I didn't send you the email the first time, so I think that might have actually been my fault. But you're here now, so that's all that matters. So everyone, for those that don't remember, Paul made his debut on the Tuesday show with the guys as well, and I had him come on too for his Jags and for some hockey stuff here as we get into it as well. I'll let you catch up real quick because I saw your comments on Facebook before I get into the Jose Can You Sing. Anything that you've got on it at all as far as from what you saw or what you think from the draft and Shador or anything else on there you want to comment on?
I mean, it's kind of depressing watching Mel Kiper just like turn into a 90-year-old man in real time. I mean, I think that it's kind of sad that Shador was even the story of the draft. I mean, it's bad enough Cam Ward goes first overall and largely viewed as the only real, true first round talent at the position. I know right. Jackson Dart, they traded up, Giants got him, but he didn't even have half a second to get his flowers because, as the prophecy was foretold, the Jaguars stole the show with the Travis Hunter trade. Yep. And then the thing I don't get, I mean, everything I heard from Cleveland fans who were trying to justify, oh no, it makes sense. We got good value for the pick. And, all these Cleveland fans are saying, oh, we're going to go up and we're going to get our quarterback next year. And my thought is, first off, if you had to, write on a piece of paper who the consensus number one quarterback is in next year's draft, I don't think you could do it today.
No.
And you drafted two quarterbacks this year.
Right.
And the one that everybody probably presumes is the greater talent, it's not, I'm not telling tales out of school that there is some additional baggage with Shador Sanders, which is probably why he fell. Dion did not exactly, Dion, cut his own path, his own way, and he ruffled some feathers along the way in coaching as well. So the way that he feels about certain teams and as vocal as he's been about certain teams, that probably does not necessarily play in the way that the league likes to try to control everything. So, but it is what it is. I think you could give a lot of reasons why Shador fell, but the point being, I'm like, why are we going to spend all this time talking about somebody who's probably going to be one of the least impactful players to come out of what we already know is probably a down draft? So I'd rather talk about Abdul Carter, who could be an absolute monster that nobody's talking about. I mean, he could be the next Khalil Mack. Nobody's talking about Abdul Carter outside of the market that he was drafted in. You could talk about, a lot of these guys. I think that a lot of teams made a lot of kind of swings for the fences. I think Carolina made some interesting moves that are really boom or bust. Obviously, I think the Raiders had a hell of a draft. But why are we not talking about those things? We're talking about Shadur Sanders 24/7 because we live in this social media culture, and that's the story that they want to feed, and that's America. It doesn't matter what news is going on in the world. We're going to shove the one story down the news cycle over and over and over again. And Mel Kiper's just going to do everything he can to make sure that stays the story, which is why God bless America for the NFL Network. Have not watched an NFL draft on ESPN since the NFL Network has existed. Never looked back.
Yeah, I don't even really watch and that much of the draft at all. I'll watch when my team picks, and that's about it. I do admit I think I had it on ESPN more than anything, but there was a good reason, and it's a perfect segue because I had on ESPN because I figured if anyone was going to show the national anthem for the NFL draft, it was going to be ESPN, and sure enough, they did. And I'm trying to get it up here. So my Jose, can you sing? There were lots of national anthems that happened over the course of this last little bit here. Now that I see how this is going to look, I can kind of bring this up here and look at it so I can see. So, my start ratings start with the two guys from Washington. They had it on 421. Then I had the Dallas one, the Winnipeg where they did both of them again. LA, of course, my new personal favorite, the harmonic class of the Koreatown's Senior Center, which their anthem was just. It doesn't officially get a score because they don't sing, but I did a special breaking news of Drive Time last week. It's on there if you haven't seen it. If you haven't seen it, also Game 5, I'm sure they're going to be back because if they won their first two games, they're going to have them back. One of my personal favorites, Sonya Bryson Kursky in Tampa. Colorado had a couple on here, Montreal, but the one that I've been highlighting here, Steven Wilson Jr., who did the anthem for the NFL draft. And you remember the high score is 50. He started off with a guitar riff, which was weird. It wasn't even part of the national anthem. His range and pitch was okay, but then he sang it with, now look, I like country music. I don't mind a country twang every now and then, but his country twang, you couldn't even understand what he was saying. Then he went back with more guitar riffs in it. And it was the slowest national, I think it might have even been slower than Aretha Franklin's national anthem if I would have actually timed it. It was just weird. So gets a whopping 25. So that is the lowest score of all the American national anthems since I've been doing this is a 25.
That's all right. You've got 92 minutes, and then you're going to hear the Florida Panthers national anthem. We may get below that.
We'll see, hopefully, but see, TNT and TBS lately, they haven't been showing the anthems. They used to always show it with ESPN.
They usually do. I was surprised they didn't show the last one. That's the first one that I've not seen.
Yeah, so I've missed a couple of these cities just because of that. But one of my other favorite ones so far that got a high score is Lyndon Sledgewich out of Ottawa. He's old school. He's just got that big, huge baritone, booming voice. He's got the suit on. He's got the tux on. He's waving the flag at the end of it. So he got a high score. He got a 47 for me out of a possible 50. The guys in Washington were a little bit lower than what I thought they would be. I don't know if Caleb, because I know Caleb hasn't been doing some of the anthem for this year. He's not as strong as I remember him before. And it kind of seems like they changed the melody to be a little bit more barbershop quartet type setting than what I remember from them in the past. And even Sonya, I love her, but she's getting up there in age. She's in her 70s now. So her voice is starting to crack a little bit more than it used to. But she's still got a solid 45. The Colorado one was a solid 40. The New Jersey one, also not one of my favorites. Her name was Arnett. She only got a 38. She has Randy Jackson used to say on the days of American Idol, that was a little pitchy dog, and she was pitchy all over the place on that one. Alexandre Silvestre in Montreal, of course, another booming Canadian voice. Some of these baritones these guys get are just amazing. But then he starts, the English one I actually found cute because he had that French accent in the English one, which I thought was kind of funny with the U.S. national anthem. He's got this little French accent going with it. But then, of course, it comes out for Canadian and he does some of it in French, which is, it's Montreal. I get the why. I just don't like it being in French. And it's just because, I just have a thing about the French. So you're going to lose points when the national anthem is done partially in French. And that's just my own personal silliness. I understand. So those are the newest ones, so that goes on top of now still the best one that I've heard so far this year is Carnell Johnson in Vegas. He got the perfect score of 50. Just his voice is just so great. I just love it. But those are my anthems so far. Anyone have any anthem comments to write off of my silliness?
I'm curious to see if the Panthers actually show theirs. I know that theirs are traditionally not very good unless they get somebody extraordinary come in, like Alanis Morissette per se. But you're reminding me of one of my favorite moments as a football fan, when I attended the playoff game against the Los Angeles Chargers, where the Jaguars came back from a 4-touchdown deficit. The national anthem was performed by, in my opinion, top 10 guitarist of all time, Derek Trucks, huge Jaguars fan, Tedeschi Trucks Band, really based out of Jacksonville. I'll have to send that to you. I'm curious what your score would be for that. So I'll send that to you at some point offline.
Was it just straight guitar?
I can't remember. I remember he did it, and he's got such a soulful, natural playing style. He's an icon.
Because if it's just instrumental, then I don't grade it because they're not singing technically. Because
I think that I can't remember if Susan sang with him or not. But
yeah, if they sing, then they get graded. If not, then it's like the harmonic. Because if I could grade the harmonic group, they would get 100, just because it's just good fun. Like, even though, look, they don't carry the tune at all, but the crowd is singing, singing along with them. Everyone is smiling. Like, it's just, with today's current state, like, it's just nice to hear people singing the anthem and smiling. So I'll take that. Chuck's got a good comment too. Only Jimi Hendrix can do it with the guitar. Yeah, and that's when Steven Wilson first started off. He started off with that guitar riff. I'm like, okay, so is this just going to be guitar? But if so, he hasn't even started with the anthem. So what the hell is this? And then he started singing, and that made it worse. Like, I would have been happy maybe if he just did guitar. He wouldn't have been graded if it was just guitar. It would have been better for him. But he started singing and opened his mouth, and it just was not pretty.
Yeah. I want to say Her also did a good national anthem for one of the Super Bowls.
She did, yeah. I think. Well, I don't know if she's Super Bowl. Hold on, I can check my
one of those big.
Yeah,
games.
She was one of the bigger games.
She's a phenomenal talent.
Yeah, it was a good one. I'm just a national anthem junkie. What can I say? So
I'm aware of only one person like you, and that is you. So.
Well, that is a valid point right there. So, all right, so we are up to the NBA stuff. Let's get into that a little bit. The good news for the NBA, their TV ratings from last weekend, which was Easter weekend, they had a 17% increase. 4.4 million that watched over the Easter weekend games that they had on TV. So that is great news for the NBA side of things, because their ratings have been kind of down this year. So I'm sure they are very ecstatic to see those ratings come in and be good. So I'm going to try here, because I got my stuff here, and I want to make sure that I look at my notes here, because let's be honest, like I'm more than willing to admit my knowledge of the NBA is not like what it is with on the hockey side of things, but I try to keep up so I can at least be productive here on the show. So we'll start with this first one here, which is, of course, OKC is the one series that's already over. They won 4-0. I don't think there's really any surprise. The two games in Memphis were close. OKC did come back from 29 down in the first in game 3. But the big guns for OKC have led the way on this series. So you guys got anything from this series that you want to comment on?
I'm not going to have any basketball comments for you today.
That's okay.
I'll roll through it. I'm pretty immersed in football and hockey right now, especially. I know that there are some members of the program that are steeped with decades of knowledge. It is not my forte.
I know. I'm trying to be better about the NBA, because I kind of always felt that way with it too. And I'm trying. The guys have kind of, I think, got me back into it. And I'll be honest, with Cleveland's success, that's helped a little bit with getting me back into it.
Sure.
So I do try at least a little bit, but I don't think that this series really surprised me. OKC's had the best record in the league. Memphis is kind of a young team. They got they're probably their best star, Jay Morant, got hurt for game 4. But they still, they kept it close. They got Scottie Pippen Jr. He had a nice series in, but OKC's led by Jalen Williams, Chet Holmgren, and Shai, and those guys just dominated the series. And kind of speaking of dominating a series, Cleveland could these two go tonight. Cleveland could wrap up their series against Miami. And this one kind of surprises me a little bit. Not that Cleveland's up necessarily 3-0. It's just how easily they've won these 3 games. Darius Garland didn't even play for them in game 3. He's probably not going to play tonight, but Evan Mobley's been a stud. Donovan Mitchell's been who he is, and DeAndre Hunter's been coming off the bench in that 6-man role and done well for them. Bam Adeboye, I'm sure I'm mispronouncing his last name. That'd be fun to have me try and pronounce some of these basketball names and have Jack come on and try to pronounce some of the hockey names. We would stumble all over the place. I have a funny feeling. But he's had a good series looking at some of the numbers and stuff, and so is Tyler Hero for Miami, but just not good enough. They just can't defend against Cleveland, and the way that they played so far. Anything, guys? You just want me to roll through them?
I kind of don't mind when Miami loses in just about any sport. So,
I wonder if you feel that way about Miami losing. So
I was born in New York and I moved to Miami. I was born a Jets fan, God bless me. And all my friends were Miami fans in the heyday of Marino, and they tried to convince me for years, oh, you have to become a Miami fan now. And I was raised to just say F Miami. Not that I really held on to any sort of loyalty to the Jets, other than I can understand where, I can understand the pain being a long-suffering Jaguars fan, but hopefully by the love of God, we finally have turned the corner.
Yeah, I think you may have. I think you got signs of it anyway. So Jack puts in here, Miami has nothing for Cleveland, sweep them out the door. Yeah, I think that's probably happening tonight too, especially with it being, it is down in Miami. So maybe it'll still be the gentleman sweep and Miami somehow figures out a way to win one. The next series up here, Golden State is up 2-1 on Houston. This has been a pretty fun series. Stephen Curry's kind of found a fountain of youth, and he's been just dominant in all these games. Jalen Green's been good for Houston in their one win, but he hasn't really necessarily been consistent. Jimmy Butler, it looks like he's still going to be out for Golden State tonight, which I don't blame them for. If you're up 2-1, I don't see a reason to play him. If he gets a 2-2, then you got to bring him back in. But if he needs another day to get healthy, go for it. So Jack's agreeing with me. He says, yes, hockey names are crazy. Oh yeah, we could just do a fun show of hockey names all day long. God, I could have fun with that.
I can make that a game show.
We could, couldn't we? Oh boy, could we have fun with that one? So, all right. Indy's up 3-1 on Milwaukee. It's kind of, they're down the series 3-1. Most of these games have been close, but it looks like they're going to be without Damian Lillard moving forward. So that just leaves Giannis, and he's been great for them. But Indiana's starting 5 is all taking turns of being really good in the series. Miles Turner, Andrew Nembhard, Pascal Siakam, and Tyrese Halliburton, and Aaron Nesmith. They've all taken turns dominating at different times in the series when they've won the games. So they're up 3-1. I don't really think we'll see if they can knock that off tomorrow and be done. I think that game's at home in Indy too, so that's good for them. This one is kind of had us a little bit of controversy to it because of the last night. It's a 2-1 series going to the game last night. The Knicks are up 1. It looks like Tim Hardaway Jr. And it's a weird ball situation. If you've seen the play, it's kind of bouncing all over the place and then ends up going out to Hardaway for, I think if it wasn't a 3, it's a deep 2. He definitely gets bumped before he takes the shot. It definitely should have been a foul. I don't know how it wasn't called, but of course it wasn't called. And then the Knicks end up winning that game. The NBA has since come out and said, oh yeah, we screwed up on that one. We should have called a foul. But that doesn't matter to Detroit now. They're down 3-1. The apology doesn't matter for anything. And otherwise that series could have been 2 games apiece. So definitely not a good look for any league. And, the NHL's had a series of their own embarrassments of riches when it comes to officiating some of these playoff games. But you just can't have that happen where you're like, oh yeah, we screwed that up. Sorry you lost, but sorry we screwed up and you lost, but you're going to just have to deal with it. And it's a shame because I think Detroit's been kind of pushing the Knicks in this one. Karl Anthony Towns has played well for the Knicks, along with Jalen Brunson. But Cade Cunningham's done well along with Tim Hardaway on the Detroit side. So it's been a fun series, but it's always a shame when one. And granted, look, I'm an official. I never say that one official dominates the game, because it just always sucks when it's at the end, because it's the look of it that's never
the
good.
Spotlight.
Yep, exactly. Boston's up 3-1 on Orlando. I think this will be the gentleman's sweep as well. I don't see Boston winning Game 5 or Orlando winning Game 5 in Boston. The 3 guys for Boston, and they're such not really a deep team, but they've got, their 7 players that do play consistently are really damn good. Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown, and Derek White amongst the 3 that are doing really well. I think Orlando's got some upside with a couple of these kids, with Franz Wagner and Paolo Banchero. They've been good for Orlando, but just not good enough they just can't match up with Boston's size down low.
I'm just excited that a Florida basketball team is relevant again. I mean, it's been a drought since like the Penny Hardaway, Horace Grant, Shaq days.
Yep, agree. And then probably the best series has been this one, the Denver and the LA Clippers series. That's tied at 2. It's the only one of all these series that's tied at 2. Denver's they win game 4 on something I really haven't seen before. I've never seen a buzzer beating dunk before, but that's basically what it was. It was really cool.
Awesome.
Yeah, Aaron Gordon won the game on it was a rebound putback, but it was he dunked it, and it was just before the buzzer went off. It was really cool. So that play was fun to watch, and Nikola Jokic for Denver has been really good, along with Jamal Murray for the Clippers. They've had strong games by Kawhi Leonard and Norman Powell, and of course the old man James Harden's done well for them too. So it's good seeing some of these older players have their last say. But in this series, it's not, and Dylan, who was on last week, he predicted this upset of Minnesota beating the Lakers, and they're up 3-1, and it's just Minnesota's just too good, and they are just wearing the Lakers teams down. The Lakers had every chance to win that game yesterday. They fell apart kind of at the end, and it's just unfortunate. LeBron's playing out of his mind, but he's trying to do it all, and Luka Doncic seems like as good as he is, he gets tired at the end, and Edwards, and this is who Dylan was talking about all last, about him as maybe being the best player in the league. They've kind of showed it this series, and they've just made LA disappear. So I don't know. I think that my dream hope of having LeBron against Cleveland is not looking so good right now.
No, doesn't look that way.
Nope, agree. So, all right, well, there we have it. So now it's time to get to some hockey stuff. And where we talked earlier about the good news of the ratings for on the NBA side, it's not been good so far for the NHL, but I can't really say I'm surprised, because when you have an NHL playoffs, which don't get me wrong, I love the 16 teams that are in it. I think it's been great hockey. We've already had 9 games go to overtime. But when you have no New York Rangers, and you have no New York Islanders, and you have no Boston Bruins, and you have no Detroit Red Wings, and you have no Chicago Blackhawks, and you have no Pittsburgh Penguins, you're going to have a hard time getting ratings on the East Coast, because as much as we love the Carolina Panthers and the Florida, mixing them both up, the Carolina Hurricanes and the Florida Panthers, they don't drive the TV ratings, so to speak. So they're down 27% so far from last year. I'm hoping as we get down to some teams, and maybe there's some matchups where we got that East versus West thing of what is left, that maybe that gets the ratings back up. I'm not very optimistic about it. But I'm not surprised either. With the teams that are missing, it's just hard for the NHL to get ratings with these teams not in the playoffs.
Yeah. Not to say there's not star power. I mean, there's plenty of stars. It's just, unless you're a hockey fan, you don't know them.
Yep. Agree. I mean, that's 100% true. It's just, but they're not in the main market. It's not Sidney Crosby and all that good stuff. But you still got Alexander Ovechkin. But we'll say that for later. Sarah, you got any thoughts on the TV ratings being down?
Would it going against NBA right now also have something to do with
and
it?
the draft?
Yes and no. I mean, the draft is probably a bigger play, I think. I mean, the NBA, it seems like they're always going head to head against each other this time of year. So,
yeah.
And normally the NBA always has the better ratings, but like last year, the NHL saw a pretty good boost, compared to the years before. But they had some compelling matchups early on,
and they had bigger markets. I mean, it is a markets-driven statistic. So, I mean, I think that's probably the case in point. If you had two New York teams in the playoffs next year, and you took out 2 smaller market teams, I guarantee you those numbers go up probably about that difference.
Probably so. I think you're right. Real quick, just to backtrack, as Jack put in a comment, that the dunk buzzer beater brought back memories of Lowe and Wittenberg at NC State against Houston in the NCAA championship. Yeah, it was very similar to that. It's kind of the original of the alley-oop play from good old NC State. That was before Sarah's time as an NC State fan, but she might have seen the. Yeah, there you go. I knew you were going to make the Go Wolf Pack at least for that for you. So.
Oh, I thought she was giving a fist of metal.
There you go. All right. So the other big news before we get into the series here today, not really a surprise. He had a year left on his contract. Was Mike Sullivan is officially fired from Pittsburgh. He had won 2 cups. They are a while back, 2016, 2017, 10 seasons in Pittsburgh. But basically this is a Kyle Dubas move of, he hasn't been able to bring in good players. He's riddled this team with contracts that aren't movable. And so what do you do when you have a coach that hasn't made the playoffs for 3 years, when you built a really terrible team? You fire the coach that was there before you came in. And that's kind of what happens here. I don't think he's going to be without a job long. I think he'll probably end up in Boston because he's originally from Boston. I could also see New York or Chicago getting him too. But I don't think he's going to be unemployed for long. But it's yet another sign of I don't know where the Pittsburgh Penguins are heading next year.
They're definitely still they're rebuilding because I mean I think this obviously having with Mike Sullivan, it's a new era. They are really trying to start over in a way because I mean again, one, not only have they not made the playoffs, but they haven't been close. I think what was it, 2022? They were somewhat close, they were battling against the wild card, but then after that, they've just dropped down more and more each year. So yeah, I think they're just trying to obviously rebuild, see what's going on there. I mean, you got Crosby, who's got maybe 2-3 more years before he starts meeting up the skates.
He's got 2 years left on his contract. We'll see if he signs another one or not. I don't know if he will.
I don't think he will. But and just their goaltending still needs. Their offense is okay, and then their defense too. It's just they need better players because those players are getting older. They need younger members.
Yep.
Because their core is dying out.
Yeah, I mean they've got a star, player, but it's you got to build around them, or you got to keep building around them. And I feel like they had some good players in those cup runs, and when those players went elsewhere, they didn't really kind of replenish things. And truthfully, Pittsburgh's been kind of an afterthought for a while, and that's just not where Pittsburgh should be. I mean, if they're given their history, given how many Hall of Famers that they've had, some just real iconic players in the league. So hopefully they turn it around, but it sounds like it's more of a front office issue than a coaching issue.
Yeah, I think that's the biggest problem.
Good on paper, they got again, but it's just not building out.
You got to have chemistry.
Yeah, and I think the biggest problem for Pittsburgh is they look good on paper because they've got some old names that still sound good. You got Chris Letang, you got Evgeny Malkin, you've got Rust on the team, but they've all gotten older and they've gotten slower. And the NHL, old and slow doesn't work anymore. It's all about speed and generating speed. And the Penguins just don't have it, and they don't have it in their farm system. Unlike the Washington Capitals, who have found a way to thread that needle with Ovi of going from the Backstroms and the Oshis to the Leonards and the McMichaels and the Dylan Stroms. They found that needle somehow where they didn't really go backwards. I don't know that Pittsburgh can do that because they're riddled with bad contracts that are all non-trade. So the players got to be willing to go. And then if you can somehow get the player convinced to go somewhere, you've got to get the team that's willing on eating that salary. And on some of these guys, I'm not trading for Malkin anymore. I'm not trading for the defenseman that they just signed that came from San Jose, Erik Karlsson. I'm not trading for Erik Karlsson right now.
Yeah,
the only way they could move is Crosby, and they're not moving Crosby. They can't. Crosby and Ovechkin aren't tradable. They're just you can't trade Crosby.
Yeah.
I don't know where they go from there.
Speaking of Washington, what's your opinion on the bench brawl?
Oh, well, all right. We'll go. Hold on. Let me move here. So we'll start with that one. I was going to start with Florida, but since you brought up Washington and Montreal, let's go there. Washington's up on this series 3-1. It looked like Montreal might steal a game because they were up in that game late 2-1, and then going into the third period, and then Tom Wilson, one of the architects behind the bench brawl, just delivers a beautiful hit, and it was a clean hit. It was a big hit. It was clean, and then sure as hell enough, Duhane goes down and scores, then Magapane gets the win from Strome. Tom Wilson, look, Tom Wilson is one of those players you hate when he's not on your team, but you sure as hell would love to have him on your team. He's a great agitator, and I was texting with Jeff Nail because he's a huge Caps fan. Tom Wilson may go down as the greatest agitator of all time. I think he's better than Brad Marchand. I think he's better than Issa Tikkanen.
I don't know. I mean, what about where does he sit on the Ty Domi scale? Where is he?
But Ty could never score, so he could agitate.
That's all he was. He was the heel.
but not only can Tom agitate, but he can also put the puck in the net. I mean, he's got skills, and I think he single-handedly turned that game around yesterday. And the bench brawl, I was watching that when they started fighting the bench, and that poor linesman goes for the ride with Wilson and the player from Montreal, and I'm like, oh my God, this poor guy, please don't kill him, because once you start sliding on those benches and he's down on his back, like, you don't know. All it takes is a skate coming in the wrong spot, and just
you got trouble.
You got trouble, yeah. And so, fortunately, the players, I think the linesman did a good job. He got kind of on top of one, and you could tell that he's talking to him, and he's doing what he's supposed to do. Like, hey, I'm on top of you, you dumbasses! Stop punching. And they did eventually get off of each other and go off. But yeah, it was fun to watch. But as a liney, I'm like, oh my God, this poor kid, he is stuck, and there's no help once you go over that bench. But the series is interesting. Both guys lost their starting goalies. Logan Thompson did come back and play yesterday, but he didn't look great in the first two periods. Gave up 2 goals on 9 shots, but he didn't have to face a lot. Jacob Dobosh for Montreal, I thought played really well in place of Montembeault, but I think it's going to be Montreal is just such a young team. They're good, but I think they're still a year or two too early, and they're still really just one line deep. And I think that's showing against Washington, because they can just they've got 2 or 3 really good lines. So I think that series is about where I thought it would be.
Yeah, same. I think Montreal is definitely going to be a force to be reckoned with in the coming years, but I don't know if they get maybe one more game, but I think Washington closes this one out soon.
I do too. I think they close that at home. Sarah, what do you think?
I will say, like, they've obviously put up more of a fight than I thought they would. I was thinking either this series or oh my God, which other one that I thought could maybe, I don't remember which one I thought it could be a sweep, because now none of them obviously have occurred.
Nope.
But this one was probably like the one most likely where I thought, okay, if the sweep would happen, it would have happened here. So, but I could definitely see Washington winning at home for sure. I do think that obviously with Montreal being at home, it kind of helped, because Bell Center, I've heard it's electric. So, or it's a really good playoff environment. So I could see if Montreal were able to obviously win in Washington, then maybe they could pull it, have a little bit more fun with it. But yeah, I could definitely see the series ending soon for sure.
Yeah, if you're Washington, you want to end this in Game 5. You do not want it to go back to Bell Center at 3-2. No, thank you.
No, that's a loud crowd.
Yep. All right, so the one I was going to lead off with here is the first game tonight, and that's the Florida Tampa series. This is right up Duval Paul's alley here with this beloved Florida Panthers. So this series is 2-1. It's the only series that doesn't have 4 games in it yet. The road team is 3-0, which is kind of one of those weird ones. I don't really know that none of the games have been ultra competitive in the sense that there's been some blowouts, but the star of this is something I want to get to. But first, I'll let you get into your comments on the series before I get into some of the shenanigans that happened in Game 2 and Game 3, and maybe one of the all-time great new favorite quotes from a coach of all time. But I want to save that for a little bit. So go ahead, Paul, dig in.
Well, I mean, I thought the first game was a real tone setter. I thought the second game was a gut check game. I think the Hagel hit was dirty. I'm going to say that. I saw Jeff's comments online. I think that the Kachuk hit was different. Markey did not have the puck. He was nowhere near the puck. In the hit that Chuck gave to Getzel, he had just gotten rid of the puck It was not like the Hagel hit a shot to the head, but it was a shoulder to the numbers that I saw make sure you look up. I saw that Kachuk was saying that, and he's got kind of a point, but it got the 5-minute major that I think that it deserved. I don't think it deserved a suspension. I think if you look at the 2 hits, yes, both were, if Gutzel got hit, he got hit when he hit the ice and he hit his jaw because of how he fell. It wasn't because of the hit itself. That said, I think game 3, really for me, I felt like the Cats got hot early. Once again, Nick Schmidt, the dark horse from out of nowhere. But I really felt like after the first 5-10 minutes of the first period that like Florida was trying to play a different type of game than what Tampa was playing. And I felt like Tampa kept their cool. I felt like Tampa really just kind of kept their cool. And quite honestly, like the goals that they got, they were kind of fluky. I mean, they really were, a couple of them at least. I'm not saying that, Florida got out, that Florida, outplayed Tampa, because I don't think that that's the case. But I think when you get behind in games, it's a different reality. And I think that a couple of the goals were fluky. One of them just kind of bounced funny and like popped up off the top of a blade that, I thought Bob was in good position. There was a breakaway that, I'm not saying that Bob's been perfect. There've been a couple times in the series I'm like, Bob, get back in the net. Where are you? But I think it's I think that we let one kind of get away from us in the last game. I think we were more emotional because we were at home and we were trying to bring a different type of emotion out of Tampa. And I felt like they kind of, kept their cool when we were kind of trying to, needle them a little bit into making that emotional mistake. And we ended up making a lot of them. So hopefully we regroup today. We'll find out in about an hour.
Sarah, what you got?
So I have looked a little into like obviously what happened with there. I have personal. I don't like Matthew Tkachuk anyways. Like I'm always going to think anything he does is just automatically dirty. Like just it's not. I don't like him or his brother. Like it. I think I like Matthew a little bit more better than Brady, but like it's
he's got better hair.
It's like by like a fingernail, maybe. But I think Florida is just going to win this series. I could see them winning in 6 because, I mean, again, you talk about, like, Florida basketball. Florida hockey has gotten very –
I've been very impressed with the crowd there. It's been much better.
After, obviously, like, Tampa has their back-to-back, and now Florida's had their Stanley Cup. Like, hockey belongs in Florida now.
Yep.
And that's just crazy to think about, especially because, like, Florida, like, they used to have really bad attendance ratings. It used to be one of the worst in the league, and now
it was abysmal for 25 years.
But no, I think one thing that can keep Tampa in is obviously Vasilevsky. He is one of the. I'm surprised that they even got blown out that first game that bad. Like I thought it was like I think these are going to be like really close because you got Bob versus Vasilevsky. Like that's one of the greatest goalie matchups that you can find today. So. I would think the next couple of games are going to be close and obviously a couple physical since all that's going on. But I see Florida in 6 still.
Yeah. And just so for what everyone's talking about too, there was a hit in game 2 towards the end. Braden Hagel got actually suspended the game for a hit on Alexander Barkov. The puck is gone. Tampa's down big time. It's at the end of the game. They asked Paul Maurice about the hit, and Paul Maurice says, "We only hit the players that had the puck," which is a classic Paul Maurice line. I love Paul Maurice. He is great for delivering these type of lines during the playoffs. Just spot on. And so then we get to game 3, and there's the hit that Paul's talking about with Matthew Tkachuk, and it's on Jake Gensel. I honestly think the puck was pretty far gone, and I think if you're going to suspend Hagel, I could honestly have seen them giving Tkachuk a game just because it kind of.
They're not going to do that.
Well, they didn't. They've already said he's playing tonight, so he's good to go. They didn't suspend him, but still the best.
Targeted. He's targeted tonight.
Yes. Oh, yeah. He's going to have to answer for it. That's for sure. But the best part is, and this isn't typical of John Cooper, but they asked John Cooper about the hit, and he just says, "We only hit players that have the puck." Turning around the line that Mo used on himself was a freaking classic. Like just mwah, like John Cooper,
Not,
you get an A+ for that quote because
not only
damn it
that,
was
but
it
not
just
only
great.
that, but Paul Maurice and his wife saw that quote while he's sitting in bed, and both of them laughed.
Yeah, I mean, it's great. Like it's just perfect. Like it's just, and he did it deadpan. Like just that's how it should be. Like I love it when coaches, because he did it because that's what Mo said, and they got it with each other. Like, and I think those two are actually pretty good friends. So,
They're very good friends.
yeah, it's just great. And could it set up some fun tonight in Game 4? We'll find out here in about an hour. I think
I'll be honest with you. It's been Kucherov setting up Gensel,
Yep.
and that's pretty much been, with the exception of the one breakaway, that's pretty much been it. That's pretty much been all Tampa's had, which is scaring me because I know that they've got other players. I know that they've got other people that can score, but quite honestly, I'm not even seeing the shots from a lot of these other players that I'm expecting.
No,
But
Florida's doing what Florida does best. They're playing that team defense. It's just
well,
killer
that's the
good
thing. I mean,
playoff.
the forecheck went away Game 3.
Yeah.
And I really feel like Tampa was actually using the forecheck on us and giving us a taste of our medicine much better than we were playing. So hopefully we get it back tonight, because I'll tell you what, if we play like we played in Game 1, it's lights out.
Yep.
But we played last game.
You
I don't
got
know.
yourself a series.
We'll see.
Agreed.
We definitely have a series, and I called it in 7. Maybe I'll just take winning. I mean, I'll take winning healthy.
Winning is always good. All right, so let's get into the other series that goes tonight. Dallas and Colorado. They've got a big Game 5. This series is tied at 2. This has been going back and forth. Colorado won Game 1 kind of easily. Dallas comes back and wins Game 2 and Game 3 in Colorado in overtime. Jake Ottinger's been lights out in goal for Dallas. The story of the series, though, for Colorado is Gabriel Landeskog, after 2 years away from a knee injury, comes back in his last game, scores. Well, he's played 2 games now, but in Game 4, gets a big goal, gets the crowd fired up. It was just amazing to watch that goal and to watch the crowd's reaction to it. But Dallas is still banged up, but yet here they are. They're giving Colorado everything they can, and this was a series on paper I think could have been the best one if Dallas wasn't injured. Yet they're still hanging in there and making it a good series, and they got a big Game 5 tonight. These 2-2-1s, the winner of Game 5 usually goes on to win the series 80% of the time. So whoever wins tonight is in a good spot. But I don't know. I think I still think I picked Colorado to win the series. I picked them to win the cup in my one that matters. So I think Colorado wins it tonight and gets control of the series. But Dallas has impressed me with how well they played despite not having a couple of their better players.
Yeah, I also took Colorado in the series, but you know how the playoffs are. If you get a goalie that gets hot, they could put the team on their back. That's it, and that's what Ottinger's doing in Dallas. As a rule, I am, naturally inclined to despise any team from Dallas. So I'm still rooting for Colorado. But it's really a series now. And that's, aside from the one that my team's in, that's probably the most interesting and intriguing one for me because of how competitive it has been.
Agree. Is there any thoughts on Dallas, Colorado?
So I really like Dallas. They're one of my favorite teams. I'm just very petty against them this year because of the Rantanen situation.
Yeah.
I don't like Rantanen now. Like I have a lot of beef with players that probably go from years back, but it's okay. But I still think Colorado can win it, especially now because they have Landeskog back. Like they won Game 4. I don't think they're gonna just easily be like, oh, well, that happened, and then Landeskog goes off the face of the earth again. Like, I think, obviously, it'll be a slow process, but I definitely think he will help them bring a little bit more energy. I do think Colorado's got a lot more talented core. Who is it? Oh, my gosh. Is it Kemper, or is it?
Kemper. No,
Yeah.
Kemper's in LA. Mackenzie Blackwood's in goal for Colorado.
Oh, okay. So I can't say much about their
Yeah.
goaltending. I don't really know much about Blackwood, although it does seem like he's having a good year. But I think Dallas kind of has a little bit better of the goaltending, but their defense is not that great. Obviously, they got their offensive core, but their defense, I think that's the one thing that's going to have them struggle during this series because Colorado has good pieces in all of that part. So I see Colorado winning in 6, but with Dallas kind of being back and forth, I could obviously see this going to a game of 7. But I still think Colorado's got it.
Can't argue with that. All right, so let's get into some of these matchups here for tomorrow night because there's only the 2 games tonight. The one that's near and dear to Sarah and my heart, Carolina, they are up 3-1 on New Jersey. Carolina's played well. You know, they haven't allowed a power play goal in the series, which is kind of crazy. I think they're now 10 for 10 on the kill. They've actually gotten a few power play goals themselves, which is also nice to see because the regular season was just bad. Freddie gets hurt in Game 3 on a hit by Timo Meier, which I don't know. I didn't like that there wasn't. You know, they did it the right way. They started off calling it a 5-minute major, so that way they could review it, and then they decided that Svech kind of pushed him in, which Svech does give him a little bit of a push.
It's
but
not that much though.
No, and I think Meyer knew what he was doing with delivering the hit, and I definitely don't think he slowed up. I think they could have taken the major and reduced it down to 2, and that probably would have been the right call. I don't think that there's any real intent by Meyer to actually knock Freddie out, but that's what happened. So we'll see. He did not practice today. PK is in net for Game 4 for sure, and then we'll see what happens. But Svech gets the head. Yeah, Game 5. Yeah, my bad. Svech gets his hat trick in Game 4 in New Jersey, so Carolina actually wins a road playoff game, so that's all good things. They're up 3-1 coming home. I hope they win it in Game 5 because that's another one. Again, I just don't want that thing going back to New Jersey at all.
Yeah, Jersey's hanging around. Close it out if he can, because whoever you play next is going to be for real.
Well, and that's likely going to be Washington, let's be honest. So.
It's weird though because I can see us winning against Washington.
Yeah.
Like I think I can see us winning against Washington. If Florida, I think in my bracket I've got us going against Florida, and obviously I could see Florida beating us because defending Stanley Cup champs. But I mean I could also see us beating. It's so 50-50, but
Carolina can beat any team in the league, and Carolina can lose to any team in the league.
Exactly. It's a fun roller coaster. But I also now just don't like Timo Meier because
I know.
So now that's on my hate list. I also don't like Eric Halla, even though he's not even on New Jersey anymore.
No, he's still there.
There. Yeah, I forget.
Yeah.
But I don't like him either. Brett Pesce I'm so cool with. We see that's the thing is we have a lot of our old core guys that we had in our
New Jersey
team
has
last
a lot
year
of ex-Canes guys. Pesce.
And I like was it Game 4 or Game 3 where Dougie and was it Dougie and Svech that were kind of getting physical?
Game 3, I think, was when that one happened. Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, I'm sure they're all having fun. They're still all their best buds, but I mean, it's weird that you're on the same team one year and now you're fighting against the next because it's a lot of our guys too, which is weird. Have they said anything about Freddie? Is he concussion protocol or?
The typical upper body injury is all that they've said. So he's not playing Game 4. That much we know. But or Game 5, that much we know. I don't know that he'll play. My gut would be that he wouldn't play again until maybe if there's a Game 6 necessary. So we'll see. Ben says maybe we can have Sarah rank the players she dislikes. All right, we'll have that on for an upcoming show. We'll give her time to work on that list of the top 10 players that Showtime Sarah hates. I like that idea. Yeah, I know we're hearing that today. So, all right,
we can do that for NFL too.
Yeah, we could. I could
get
definitely do that for NFL. Yeah, absolutely. Top 10 players we hate in any sports. That'd be fun. See this one. Toronto's up 3-1. Ottawa stays alive with an overtime win yesterday. And this is where it's crazy because you look at it, you say 3-1, and Toronto blew Ottawa out the game 1 because Ottawa got way off the game. But after that, the last 3 games have all gone to overtime. Toronto's won 2 of them, but you could easily make an argument that Ottawa could easily, have the series be 2-2 or hell even be up 3-1. Anthony Stolarz has been good in goal for Toronto. The key for Toronto is they're getting actual production from the big guys. Tavares, Matthews, and Marner are all scoring. Ottawa's hanging in there. It's mostly Red led by the player that Sarah hates and Brady Kachuk. But let's call it what it is. He's carrying that team right now. He's making some big hits. He's scoring the big goals that they need. So we'll see. I think this is another one. I think Toronto ends it in 5, but maybe Ottawa can somehow win a game or two more. But it's kind of seems like it's Toronto to lose. Which, don't get me wrong, if Toronto, who is up 3-0 in the series, lost this series, I would enjoy the hell out of that. I would enjoy watching the Toronto Maple Leaf fans melt down if that happens, but I don't think it's going to happen.
No, we want to give them some hope before they fall apart.
Right.
I think it's great watching Stolarz doing his Tanya Harding impression, and anytime anybody from Ottawa gets in front of the net, I'm surprised he hasn't drawn more penalties.
He is flopping, isn't he? Big time.
Well, I'm just thinking of how many he's just like whacking it every. So there's that one video that went viral, him just whacking that player about 6-7 times while the refs are worried about other things. And you know what? It's the playoffs. You do what you got to do. But Stolarz, obviously a name we know well. He's been playing well, but Toronto's they've got the horses, I think, to close this out in 5.
Agree.
Sarah, respectfully, this is like maybe. See, like it feels weird saying because Battle of Ontario, but this is one of the most boring series that I've had to watch in a way because like we already know kind of who's gonna win. It was kind of pretty obvious. Obviously, if Ottawa pulled up that upset, it's very Toronto core and something that they like doing. But nobody's winning. Whoever wins this series, nobody's winning it in the second round. They're not gonna win against Tampa if they pull it off. They're not gonna win against Florida. They think they do. They think they want Florida is what I
do. What I hear. Well, yeah, they're saying we want Florida. Remember?
They don't want Florida.
That's what they think they want.
The only way
to be able to give it to them.
This is why I'm confused because like some people have like Toronto winning the cup, and it's like they just got past the second round. Let's give them some space here.
They haven't done that yet officially.
Well, no, like you know, like I'm saying, like last year was the first time we made it past the second round in how many years? How many decades?
A lot.
Like they're not. The only way is like maybe they could win against Tampa, but that's a hard maybe, a hard if. They're not beating Florida. Florida might sweep them. No, I don't want to say that. But like,
keep talking, Sarah.
I'm just saying, like again, like it's great because it's Battle of Ontario, and I'm sure it's great for Canada to watch this, but it doesn't matter. It's like a free playoff series because you're losing the second round. You're not beating.
They don't think that, and they don't know that. Just like
I'll let them have the delusion. It's fine. But
the Houston Texans think they're going to an AFC Championship game someday too.
That's true.
Good they keep trying to spell it with an L.
They'll get there one day, maybe. All right, let's keep moving on here. This series, kind of a bit of a surprise to me that we're tied at 2 games apiece. Vegas and Minnesota, they are tied at 2. Vegas is 1 game 1. Minnesota, who's played really well, honestly, and series probably better than I thought they would. They come back and win games 2 and 3. They're out, same kind of thing. They're up in game 4 to go up in this series 3-1. But then Vegas gets a goal late in the third period, and then they win that game in overtime to even it up. So now they are going back home to Vegas for game 5. I think Minnesota had to be up in this thing 3-1 to really put the pressure on Vegas to win it. I think Vegas winning that game in Minnesota gives Vegas a lot of confidence. And my gut's going to be, I think Vegas is now going to show up and win this thing in 6.
I took Vegas to win this series, but the way that Minnesota's been playing, I'm almost second guessing myself. Kirill's shown up. It's been exciting. It's been exciting to watch. I may have to eat the L on that selection because I wouldn't be surprised if Minnesota pulled it off. I think this is also a very tight series, but if Vegas can pull themselves together, potentially they can close it out in the next couple of games. We'll see.
Yep.
I think I had Vegas in 5, so I am definitely a little bit shocked about it. Did Dylan do this because what? Minnesota is doing the upset in NBA and now
the Wild are hanging around
in this territory. Like it, I will say if I had to, I like upsets regardless, unless it comes to my team. But if I had to root for an upset, it would be Minnesota beating Vegas. You got Marc-Andre in his last season. You got Kirill, like he's obviously a very rising player. Like you obviously want to see him have that success early on. Oh my gosh. There's
And he's
other
showing
people
up.
on the team that I care about, but it's just not coming to my head. It's just I feel like I think I'm more so just on the Fleury story, and that's just what I'm writing
Yeah.
on. If that happens, like I'm rooting for Fleury. That's all it is. And that's probably all that matters to me. But like I think this one would definitely be a very fun upset to watch. And I'm almost thinking, is it gonna go to 7? Like
It
because
could.
Vegas could win game 5, but I think once they go back to Minnesota, it's saying something. I think
And
Vegas, I don't know what's going on with Vegas, but I think they gotta realize they gotta get it together. And if they don't, I can see the
yeah.
upset.
Minnesota has made Aiden Hill look like the goalie I think he was going before last year when this new Aiden Hill showed up, and
Oh,
Minnesota
for
has found a
sure.
way to beat him a lot. But they got to ride him, and I think that's where I think Minnesota's definitely got the advantages right now is in goal because Gustafson's been really good for Minnesota, and Aiden Hill's been average, and that's where you start getting in trouble when you got a goalie playing really well on one side and your goalie is playing average. That's fun. Now in this next series, neither goalie is really playing well, and the poor LA Kings, because let's be honest, LA could have easily swept the series. They had a lead in Game 3 in Edmonton. They had a lead in Game 4 in Edmonton, and then they start doing this BS where they try to all through these other game, every other moment in the game, they are pushing Edmonton by taking their game to them. And then they get into this trying to be in the defensive shell. And you just can't you can't play that way against Edmonton because the longer you try to sit back, the more chances you give the Leon Draisaitl's and the Connor McDavids to ball out. And that's what they did. They win game 3. They get a power play off of a challenge on a goalie interference, which I didn't think was a good challenge. They score the power play goal to take the lead. Last night they're down 3-1 going to third. I think they outshot LA like 20-3 in the third period. They could get the tying goal with 18 seconds left, and they get a power play in overtime on a good call. It was a penalty, and Leon Draisaitl gets the tip in to win it. And here we are again. LA just can't get over that hump of beating Edmonton, and they could have easily already won the series, and yet here they are tied at 2, and now Edmonton's got all the momentum in this thing going into LA. The only thing that LA has going for them is I'm sure their anthem singers will be back, and they haven't lost in any game that they've done with them. I don't know if they can take them on the road with them to Edmonton, but they would have 2 more home playoff games, so Edmonton's going to have to beat the Harmonic group, and that's LA's only hope, I guess.
Yeah, this was a series I thought Edmonton was going to play a lot better hockey in. LA's been making it very difficult. They don't want to go home, and they're definitely a team I could see winning this series. So this is going to be another one that'll be interesting to see how it plays out.
For the past 4 years, I have put LA in my brackets, despite the fact that I know it's usually not likely. This year, I still put them in my bracket, and it's actually somewhat likely. So I'm still riding on that train. Obviously, they got some things to figure out. I could definitely see the series going into 7 because of how back and forth it is with the bad goaltending. But I still think LA's got it. Maybe that's my delusion writing. But 6 or 7 LA. Edmonton, they have McDavid and Draisaitl, and that's it. You can't. It's just like with Pittsburgh, you can't make a huge team off of just like 2 players and not build anything off around it. They don't really have that much defense other than maybe Nurse. The goaltending in Stuart Skinner, he's very on and off. He's not a very consistent.
They benched him last game because it was Picard that played all game for game 4.
That's what I'm saying. Like
how bad Skinner's been.
And like even Picard, he's not exactly the greatest.
He's not good.
He's not good. So you can't spend all your time on these 2 players and then expect everything else to go well. And I think Edmonton's obviously finding that out the hard way. And they find that out the hard way every single year. And that's why I'm like nearly convinced McDavid and Draisaitl's time in Edmonton is coming to a close. Because if they don't win the cup this year, I think they're going to want out.
Yep. Yeah, I think McDavid's got 2 years left on that deal and Draisaitl's got 1. I can't remember. I'd have to look that up. Yeah, yeah. Which is just I just can't believe that Edmonton is here again. I mean, Grant, they made to the Cup Finals last year against Florida, and they pushed that game into a Game 7. Despite everything that went. So it's not like they're that far removed from being but here we are again. It just seems like I'm just tired of saying the same thing about Edmonton. It seems like we say the same thing every year about Edmonton in this spot. I don't know.
They're frauds.
I like it. Paul, anything else on that series? Are you good?
No, I'm good.
All right. So here's our the talk about surprise series to be 2-2. Winnipeg, they survived game 1 where they gave a couple of weird early goals, and then they come back and win that game. Game 2 they take pretty easily, and you're starting to think, okay, Winnipeg and Colin Hollibuck have righted the ship. They're going to take care of this hot St. Louis team. They're going to get some rest. Then they go to St. Louis, and St. Louis puts up 12 goals in 2 games. They made the Jets defense look like crap, and here we are again with Connor Hollibuck having to answer questions because his playoff, and especially these last 2 games, he has not been good. Now, granted, the defense in front of him has been god awful as well, but he's not made the timely saves. He has not looked good, and we're right back here again with Winnipeg and Connor Hollibuck. And today, his quotes was, "I've studied goaltending more than anyone, and I'm ready for any challenges, and I know what I need to do to be better." Well, if you know what you need to do to be better, why haven't you been better? Because you've not been really good in this series at all.
No, he's been struggling. I mean, St. Louis has got that Gloria juice going. I don't know what's going on with them. They're they're really lighting up the lamp. And they've definitely made this a series. Winnipeg needs to kind of regroup. I think you nailed it. I think the coaches need to look at what's going on with that defensive unit and do what they can to help their goalie out. Block some shots. But this is definitely a series now. Hopefully Winnipeg rights the ship based on what my bracket says, but we'll see.
Sarah, what you got? Because you got Midnight Rider here. He loves your hockey knowledge. So
It's just like I don't know. I'm very straight up forward with this. Like I'm just apparently there's a stat going on that Connor Hellebuck cannot win in St. Louis. I'm pretty sure it's like 12 consecutive losses in St.
Really?
Louis.
I didn't even know that nugget.
I'm pretty sure I saw something about that. Like I'll have to search it up again, but I'm fairly confident he doesn't win in St. Louis.
That's crazy.
So writing on that, I would think that obviously the home advantage is what's going to save them from that. The whiteout, the whiteout saves them, I guess. It's just kind of like, because again, maybe it's the President's Trophies curse. I don't really know what this is, because then the only reason like I've been writing on Winnipeg is because of their goaltending, and now you're telling me their goaltending might be a fraud in the playoffs. And that was the only, I mean, yeah, again, like, what was said last week, like, you got good players, you got Ellers, you got, why is it dipping on me? You got players.
I know who you're talking about, but yes.
Yeah. You got those players, and long day, but you have these players. Oh my gosh, I'm gonna stop saying players, and just nothing is happening. Like, even in game 1, they kind of cut it a little close there. Like, I mean, again, St. Louis, they were on a pretty good streak before. That's even probably how they got into the playoffs, with that streak. So I had Winnipeg in 5, but now I can see this going to 6. But the thing is, I can't tell you who's going to win in 6 now.
Yep.
Like, or 7. I don't want to see. I don't really know if it would go to 7. Hopefully Winnipeg gets their stuff together, because I think in my brackets I got them going pretty far. But I don't know. We'll see.
I agree. It's going to be, I don't know where it's going to go either. I think the game 5 for Winnipeg is the big one. They've got to win it. If this series goes 3-2, St. Louis up, going back to St. Louis, I think St. Louis wins it in 6. If Winnipeg wins game 5, I think they still get out of the series, but I'm not as confident as I was going into it. That's for sure.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So some quick playoff stats here before we wrap up for tonight. Leading goals against average is Freddie Anderson in Carolina. He's got a 1.59 and a 936 save percentage. Mackenzie Blackwood in Colorado at 1.60, a 939 save percentage. Philip Gustafson from Minnesota is a 919. Your leading point getters, Shocker, McDavid, and Draisaitl, 9 each for Edmonton. Andre Kemp in LA, Shocker, 9 there. Kirill Kaprizov, who we mentioned earlier, for Minnesota with 8. And Cam Fowler for St. Louis, who's just been setting up guys left and right, has 8 points as well. 9 games have gone to overtime so far. We've only had 1 double overtime, which is a little disappointing. I like seeing a good couple double, triple overtimes, and that 1 double overtime was not good for my team because that was when New Jersey got their 1 win in the series. But the home team is 6-3 in overtime so far. Power play percentages. LA is at a 46% clip on the power play. Edmonton's right behind them at 40. So that's where all the goals are coming from that series. It's just crazy. Montreal and Toronto are right behind at 38%. So of all those teams, you got LA, Edmonton at 2-2. Montreal's the only team that's losing, even though they're at 38% clip. The PK, which is always the other side of it for me, Carolina's at 100%, which is why they're leading that series. Florida's at a 92.3% on the penalty kill, so their PK has been really strong. Montreal, surprisingly, is at 90%, so they've done a good job of keeping Washington off the board on special teams and scoring on their special teams, but they're still down 3-1. So that was just some of the stats that I saw that hit me so far. Anything from you guys that pops out of stat wise that you've seen?
I don't know if you saw this one. This is the first time that the series have been tied in a conference since like 2010 on like with the Western Conference. Every single game is tied at 2.
Yeah, they're all tied at 2. Yep.
Last time that happened was 2010.
Nice. Love it. Look at that stat. That's a good one. Good job.
You're just making me think about all the times that my team was in the penalty box in Game 3, and I'm really hoping that they can avoid that tonight.
Nothing wrong with that. All right, guys. Anything else on the hockey front here?
Pre-game, I got 33 minutes.
I know,
hopefully we get an anthem that you can rate, and I am positive it will be low.
We'll see. Well, I was going to do some baseball stuff, but we ran over as it is, so we'll skip baseball for next time. So we'll get to the exit ramp here for now, and basically, we got a lot to look forward to for this coming week. Of course, we'll probably next week we'll dive into some. See if I can get Dylan back on for the NBA series for a breakdown of what will be the semifinal, the conference semifinals rounds. We'll have the same thing on the NHL side because by this time next Monday we'll know what teams have survived. I think there could be one potential Game 7 on that Monday if I remember looking at the schedule outright. So depending on how things fall over this next week, but I appreciate you two coming on because it always is. It's much easier for me instead of me babbling off on my own to have some people to bounce some thoughts off of. So Showtime Sarah, thanks for coming. Duval Paul, it's great to have you on here too. You're welcome on anytime you want to.
You got it. See you.
All right. Anything else, Sarah?
I hope Matthew Tkachuk gets beat up.
Ouch.
Hey, I'll take it as long as we get the dub.
As long as you win. you take him get beat up or win. I would do that too, probably. Take
let them get beat up. Let them get thrown in the box. Let us get the dub.
Score a couple power play goals off of it. Yeah, that could be a win-win for everyone then there. So
that made me mad in Carolina. Timo Meier injured our goalie, then he got a goal for it.
I know. I did not like that he scored that next goal right afterwards. It's like, where's the playoff karma? As he's supposed to. But
I kind of want like Brad Marchand to beat up Tkachuk because that would just be hilarious. But they're on the same team, so that can't happen. I mean, it could happen, but
that would be really weird. They start going after each other.
Because as you said, as much as an agitator he is, you just can't help but love Brad Marchand. Because what was it? You hate when he's not on your team.
Yep. Well, he's on my team, and now I'm waiting for the dividends. Is what I'm waiting for because I've hated him immensely for years.
Yeah, he's been kind of quiet this series. He hasn't really.
He's been quiet.
Yeah.
He's had a couple of moments, but
maybe he's saving up for Toronto.
Points is what I need. I need points from Brad.
Oh, that would be fun.
You know how much Brad Marchand loves playing against Toronto. Maybe he's saving. Maybe he's saving it for that. Because then he can go full.
I would love a coming out party if we can advance. Let's advance.
Okay. All right, guys. Well, I appreciate your time. As I end with every show, thank you guys, everyone, for joining us. And make sure you hug your loved ones, tell them that you love them, because tomorrow's not guaranteed. But if we're all here, hopefully you join everyone on the Sideline Junkies, because we got lots of good shows coming up. The guys will be coming up tomorrow on the Tuesday night flight to break down. I'm sure they'll be breaking down the NBA stuff in full detail, and probably more even on the draft. And then Thursday night they are back for the Thursday night throwdown, and Gentleman Jack has his interviews on Wednesday as well. So a big week of sports coming up, and we appreciate everyone's time, and we will see you all later.